Why does success feel harder for you and easier for others? Why does progress show up as obstacle, resistance and struggle while for some people it moves with ease? और हम ये मान लेते हैं कि शायद ऐसा ही होता है. Because you treat struggle as sign you can trust, you treat pain as proof, and you assume difficulty is what makes the outcome valuable. So when life resists you, you assume you are doing something right. You see obstacles as commitment and difficulties as grind. And over time, that rule stop feeling personal and begin to feel universal. This is when you tell yourself, this is how life is supposed to be, this is how success is supposed to feel. And eventually, that belief doesn't stay practical, it gets spiritualized. You start calling struggle devotion and effort alignment. But here's the part most people never question. Struggle doesn't mean you are tested, prepared, or watched closely by God. It means something inside you is out of alignment. God is not pleased by struggle. God responds to alignment. And once that clicks, struggle stops qualifying as proof of success, worth, or holiness. It shows up for what it actually is, a misaligned state already running your life. Now, here's the part most people never notice about struggle. You didn't consciously decide that success should be hard or achievement has to hurt. What actually happened was quieter than that. You watched it happening around you. You grew up watching your parents worry about money, pushing themselves endlessly and holding life together through stress and sacrifice. आपने अपने करीबी लोगों को देखा है मेहनत करते हुए, जूझते हुए, इसलिए नहीं क्योंकि उनको वो पसंद था, बल्कि इसलिए क्योंकि उनकी जिंदगी उस पर टिकी हुई थी. You didn't learn struggle because it works, you learned it because you saw it. And when you are young, you don't analyze pattern like that. You don't question them, you observe them as reality. And whatever you observe emotionally doesn't stay as memory, it becomes an expectation. Those observations form a mental and emotional association between success and struggle. That's why success already feel heavy before you even begin. That's not logic, that's a mental and emotional association that's already in control. Success doesn't just look hard, it feels like it should be. Then you turn to movies and stories and the same message repeats itself. There's a hero who never wins easily, he bleeds, he sacrifices and is rewarded because he endured pain. Struggle get glorified and remembered while ease barely get noticed. And that rule quietly settles in. If success matters, it should hurt. If success doesn't hurt, it doesn't feel real, and that's the problem. You don't struggle because success is hard, you struggle because success without pain doesn't feel valid. This doesn't happen through thinking, it happens because the emotional pattern keep repeating until it becomes permanent. And once it hardens, it stops feeling like a belief and start feeling like reality itself. That association, it becomes how you see success. And that lens becomes your state of consciousness, the position you move from before anything happen externally. So when you go after your own goals, you don't enter neutrally, you enter already expecting effort, resistance and struggle. That expectation isn't passive, it actively set the tone on how reality has to match it. That's why the moment you try to move forward, it feels like you are pushing against a wall. Resistance doesn't arrive later, it shows up at the door right away. Not because success is difficult, but because struggle is already present in your state from which you are operating from. Without struggle, success doesn't feel legitimate, and when something feels legitimate, you interfere with it. You hesitate, overthink, delay, or pull back just enough to bring the friction back in. That's why progress so often looks like one step forward and two steps back. You don't sabotage because you are incapable, you sabotage because success without struggle feel illegal. So when progress looks simple, you complicate it. When things move smoothly, you distrust them. You create problems where none were required just to restore the familiar feeling of effort and struggle. Somewhere along the way, struggle becomes the condition for success to feel valid. And when struggle becomes the condition, reality supplies it immediately. Struggle doesn't appear because the path is hard, it appears because your state of consciousness expects success to demand it. This is where struggle stops being about result and start deciding whether you feel worthy of success at all. Look at all the success stories that you respect, the ones that are filled with years of failure, pressure, sacrifice, and pushing through even when nothing was working. Those stories, they land heavier, they feel solid, earned, and real before you even look at the outcome. And now notice what happened when someone says that things worked out for them quickly or the path was very simple and smooth for them. Something inside you resists that story immediately. You may not say it out loud, but the reaction is still there. And you internally start questioning it. You assume they got lucky, found some shortcut, or something is missing. No one taught you to do this. You didn't decide that struggle equals deserving. It becomes familiar through repetition. That mental and emotional association that you have between struggle and success. And over time, you learn to read pain as proof that someone paid the price, proof that they deserve what they have. And once struggle function as proof, ease start to feel incomplete. Ease doesn't feel wrong because it's wrong, it feels wrong because it doesn't match how success has been conditioned to feel. And this is when struggle becomes the measure of self-worth, not consciously, mechanically. So success stop being about what you achieve, it becomes about how much you have endured to get there. If struggle earns respect, then struggling start to feel necessary, and ease by contrast start to feel undeserved. That's why heavy effort feels grounding and smooth progress feels uncomfortable. When things are hard, you feel justified, and when they are easy, you feel exposed. You don't think something is wrong, you think you haven't earned it yet. So you add efforts. You complicate what didn't need complication, not because life demands it, but because this is the state that feels worthy to you. And at some point, struggling becomes how you reassure yourself that you are allowed to succeed. And once worth is tied to the struggle, letting go of struggle feel like losing permission. That's why struggle doesn't just repeat, it gets protected. And this explains something people rarely say out loud. Look at how we talk about people who came from wealthy background, had rich parents, become successful at a young age, or seem to move ahead quickly in their life. Things move faster for them and opportunities open without constant chaos. And almost immediately, we explain it by saying that they had money, they had backing, they had support, they had connection. But notice what actually happening there. We are not explaining how they succeeded, we are questioning whether they deserve to be successful or not. For them, success was never emotionally tied to struggle. They grew up watching money move, problem get solved, and life progress without constant pressure or panic. So when they go after something, they don't brace themselves for resistance or wait for pain to show up. They don't assume difficulty is required for success to be real. Ease feels normal to them, and whatever feels normal keeps repeating. Their state doesn't demand resistance, so reality doesn't supply it. Now notice your reaction to that. Instead of seeing ease as alignment, you downgrade it and say it doesn't count. Because if success can happen without struggle, then struggle can't be the proof of worth anymore, and that threatens the rule that you have been living by. We don't hate their easy success, we hate what it proves about our own struggles. So we mock it, dismiss it, and feel uneasy around it. Not because it's false, but because it exposes that struggle was never a requirement, only a belief. Reality does not respond to effort, intention, or morality. It responds only to your state of consciousness. Reality doesn't test you, it mirrors you. What you experience outside is not separate from you at all. It is consciousness slowed down and appearing as circumstances. What you repeatedly observe and emotionally accept does not remain a thought. It condensed into a stable state of consciousness. Once a state becomes stable, it freezes, and frozen consciousness is what you experience as reality. So when success becomes emotionally tied to struggle, that association did not stay psychological anymore. It hardens into the state you live and move from. You do not enter situations neutrally and then react. You enter from a pre-existing state, and reality arranges itself to match it. Reality is not reacting to what you are doing, it mirroring what you are being. If success feels legitimate only when it is hard, then success can only appear through resistance, not as punishment but as exact correspondence. Nothing here is personal, emotional, or moral. Consciousness, it sets the pattern first, and reality follows without exception. You cannot override a state of consciousness with more effort. Effort applied from the same state only reinforce the same pattern. Change the state and the frozen pattern melts. Leave the state untouched and the same reality has no choice but to repeat. When struggle becomes familiar, it looks for meaning, and the highest meaning it can find is spiritual. People call pain a test from God, turn suffering into faith, and label struggle as devotion. But devotion was never about suffering or hardship. Devotion was always about the state you remain in. Spirituality without command over your reality is vanity. God does not respond to suffering, God responds to the state. And in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 22, Krishna says, Ananyasya chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nitya bhuktanam yogakshema vahamyaham. Those who remain undivided and established in me, I carry what they lack and preserve what they have. The word most people translate as devotion is paryupasate, and that translation is where this confusion starts. The word does not mean ritual, prayer, or physical worship. The root upas means to sit near, to remain close, to abide with, and the prefix pari means completely without deviation. Together, paryupasate means remaining fully aligned, staying oriented without drifting. Krishna is not describing something you do to the god, he is describing a state that you remain in. That's why the verse does not say those who suffer, struggle, or perform devotion correctly. It says those who remain undivided and aligned. And only after that state is named does Krishna says, I carry what they lack and preserve what they have. Then Krishna removes any remaining ambiguity in chapter 6, verse 7, when he says, Jitatmana prashantasya paramatma samahitaha. For those who has mastered the mind and is established in calmness, the Supreme is present. Notice what is absent. There is no mention of effort, struggle, or pain. The closeness to God described here is not emotional intensity or physical struggle, it is stillness, calm, and inner steadiness. So, when devotion is understood properly, struggle cannot qualify. Struggle is agitation, and agitation is deviation from the alignment. In Gita, devotion doesn't mean doing more for God, it means staying calm enough for God to be present. Now, look honestly at the state you are in when you are struggling. It's fear, desperation, tension, and survival. That isn't devotion. God consciousness is peace, stillness, and clarity. Struggle doesn't signal faith, it signals distance from the alignment. If you are struggling right now, it doesn't mean you are noble or chosen. It means something inside is misaligned and reality is reflecting it back to you. Struggle isn't a badge of honor, it's a feedback. God isn't found in grind or exhaustion. God is accessed through clarity, stillness, calmness, and peace. The moment you see pain acting as proof of worth, it loses its power. And when ease stops feeling illegitimate, struggle no longer needs to show up. Reality does not respond to how hard you try, it responds to the state you live in. If struggle keeps revealing it's not devotion, it's alignment asking to be corrected. So the real question is no longer how to struggle better. The real question is, and let me write it down, what misalignment in me is creating this struggle?